Ahmad Arbery, banana bread, and Alabama are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is February 23rd, 2022. It is the 54th day of the year, 311 days left in this year. Doesn't seem to be going as fast as 2021 did. Today is the 8th Wednesday in the 9th week and the 65th day of winter. 25 days left until spring. And if you have a child born today or you were born in 2010, 1998, or 1986, you were born in the Chinese Year of the Tiger. Legend has it that the tiger hasn't always been one of the Chinese zodiac animals. Many centuries ago, an emperor replaced the lion with a tiger. Sort of reminds me of how chess has evolved over the years. Originally, there was other versions like in India, and then some of the Arabic countries had their own version of chess, and then they brought it to England. And when they brought it to England, the queen decided she needed to replace something. Then the church wanted to get rid of the elephants and put a bishop. I think it was elephants. Then they didn't have a knight. They actually had a chariot at one point. Today is National Banana Bread Day. This is a great food holiday. I love banana bread. I had, pumpkin banana bread spice cake one time. It was really good. Sounds kind of weird, sounds kind of gross, mixing pumpkin and bananas together, but it was actually pretty good. When I worked at Netflix, we used to have apples and stuff out all the time and bananas. And when the bananas would go bad, this one girl would take it home and she'd come back with the best banana bread. All right, let's see what else February 23rd has given us. 1778, the American Revolution. Baron von Steuben arrives at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania to help train the Continental Army. We also got a lot of help from the French. He was a German or Prussian general, but we also got a lot of help from the French. And our drill and ceremony, which is what they call, the about face, left face, all that stuff, that's called drill and ceremony. A lot of it is very similar to what the French do, and it's because we learned it from the French over 200 years ago. Or I shouldn't say learned it from them, they trained us. 1836, the Texas Revolution. The siege of the Alamo begins in San Antonio, Texas. I was just at the Alamo like 3 weeks ago. It's a pretty interesting thing. It was a little dull, but the history, if you know it, it makes it more interesting. I mean, if you're just going there to check it out, it doesn't make much sense to a lot of people. Especially most people think it was the actual fort. No, this was a mission, like a place where they tried to convert the Indians into Christianity. That type of thing. This wasn't like a fort with big thick walls or anything like that. Most of the walls during that battle were made of like wood spikes, barrels, things like that. That was just the siege. 13 days later, the battle went down. The Alamo was overrun. Most people there were killed. Sometime later, General Sam Houston defeated the Mexican army and won Texas's independence. One thing leads to another. The Dallas Cowboys are created, and their cheerleaders become more famous than the actual team. 1861, President-elect Abraham Lincoln arrives secretly in Washington, D.C. after the thwarting of an alleged assassination plot in Baltimore. 1883, Alabama becomes the first U.S. state to enact an antitrust law. There's a lot that goes into this, but most people hear antitrust and they don't know what it means. Basically, it's a broad group of state and federal laws that are designed to make sure businesses are competing fairly. Normally, anytime some company gets really big, there's rumors of antitrust lawsuits going forward and stuff like that. I mean, Google's involved in one right now. Amazon's looked at one. Walmart, Microsoft, they've all had to deal with it. 1903, Cuba leases Guantanamo Bay to the United States in perpetuity. In perpetuity just means this is an open lease and it can last forever until the United States decides to cancel it. And if you go visit Guantanamo Bay, you don't get to stroll into Cuba. I had a friend, stand-up comedian, he was going to do some USO shows in Guantanamo, and he's telling me, oh yeah, I'm going there, I'm going to go see Cuba. I'm all, no, you won't be able to go see Cuba. And he's all, no, I could go see Cuba. I'm all, no, they won't let you go over there. He goes, no, that's just for the military. I'm all, no, that's for all American citizens, and especially if you're entering Cuba from Guantanamo Bay, it's not happening. And he looked at me like I was crazy. I saw him like a month after he got back and he goes, yeah, dude, you were right. They wouldn't even let me get near the fence. 1942, World War II. Japanese submarines fire artillery shells at the coastline near Santa Barbara, California. This wasn't the only attack the United States had seen on their own soil during World War II. A lot of people think we're just immune from that none of this went on here, but a lot of people don't realize besides Hawaii, the Japanese attacked one of the Aleutian Islands and actually occupied it for about a year. The Aleutian Islands are up there by Alaska, in case you don't know. The Japanese also parked a submarine off the coast of Oregon and set hot air balloons up with incendiary bombs on it. When the bombs landed, they either didn't go off or the ground was too wet for the forest to catch fire. That was their big idea. They were going to just set Oregon ablaze. A Japanese torpedo was found near the Golden Gate Bridge, so they had tried to fire it at something and it missed. That was in 1941, and of course there was a battle between a German U-boat and a Coast Guard cutter off the shores of New Jersey, where people at a resort there could actually see the firing. It was that close. So this attack was on the Elwood oil fields, which are near Santa Barbara. At around 7 o'clock on February 23, 1942, the Japanese submarine known as I-17 parked right offshore of the Elwood oil fields in California, and over 20 minutes shelled the oil fields with about 16 rounds, they figure. Now, these are rounds coming from a submarine, not like a battleship, so the chances of them doing a lot of damage are really slim. But they were just trying to get a point across, most historians think. They wanted the United States to know that they could still strike. It wasn't just Hawaii, they could strike anywhere they wanted. This was kind of a haphazard attack, so they don't think it was really well thought up. The Japanese knew this oil field. The Elwood oil field and the refinery they had there was used by the Japanese prior to the war to refuel their ships and their submarines. And that sort of plays into another theory they have. The commander of the I-17 had actually visited the Elwood oil fields before to refuel his submarine back before the war. It is said he had slipped and fallen flat on his butt on the docks there, and the oil workers laughed at him. This was the ultimate sign of disrespect to him, and he couldn't get past it. So they think that since he was patrolling the West Coast, he decided to stop here and shell the fields. Well, they don't think it was really planned out because he was shooting armor-piercing shells onto this refinery. If he would have used incendiary ones like they had planned this back in Japan and brought incendiary rounds, that whole oil field would have gone up in flames. But he didn't have those or didn't decide to use them. He just used the armor-piercing ones that would have been used if he was shooting at a ship or something. But the most popular and most logical theory is that this was just to send a message and cause a little panic on the West Coast, which it did. 5 days later in Los Angeles, there was an air raid. Anti-aircraft stuff went out all over the place. 5 people died in the chaos, and this battle raged on, and there was no Japanese airplanes up there. It was a false alarm, and they just started firing everything they could off into the air. Everyone's on heightened alert right up the coast. Someone had tried to bomb an oil field, and so they were on, I'm sure, next to no sleep and their last nerve. Normally when an attack like that happens, they put everyone on like 24-hour duties. This is 5 days later. I'm sure these poor guys running the anti-aircraft stuff in Los Angeles had next to no sleep. At this point, they had already planned on putting Japanese Americans in internment camps throughout the war because they were afraid of sabotage and all that other stuff. Well, if you were in the military or a politician that was on the fence about putting other Americans in internment camps, this kind of sold you on it might be a good idea. Which leads to another conspiracy theory I read, that this was actually the United States government shelling that and not the Japanese, and they blamed it on the Japanese to sell it to the American public that this is why we're putting Japanese Americans in internment camps. I don't know, there's always a conspiracy for everything, back then and to this day. There's a really good book I read called The Nature of Conspiracy Theories by Michael Butler. It kind of explains how conspiracy theories get started, and they all follow 4 different themes. It's really interesting. I'll put a link down below for it. 1983, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, announces the intent to buy out and evacuate the dioxin-contaminated community of Times Beach, Missouri. That is horrible. Movies released on February 23rd, 2018, Annihilation. This was a good movie, but it's hard to get into. It stars Natalie Portman, Oscar Isaac, who I love, and Tessa Thompson, who I love. Tessa Thompson played Valkyrie in the Avengers movies and the Thor movies. She's great. But this movie is a biologist signs up for an expedition into an environmental disaster zone in order to understand why a previous group of soldiers did not, survive. But the beginning of this movie is dull and boring, and it kind of broke the first rule of storytelling. Hook the people into your story in the very beginning, making them want more. This one was slow, and I tried to watch it like 4 times before I finally sat through it because everyone said it was so good. And it was about 20 minutes into the movie before you're all, oh, this is a really good movie. So if you ever get a chance to watch that, it's a pretty good movie. Just be prepared to sit through the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. Kind of be bored. I don't know, get your cell phone out. Born on February 23rd, 1983, Emily Blunt. She is an English actress who became known for her roles in such movies as Loopers, Edge of Tomorrow, The Adjustment Bureau, and Into the Woods. She received 8 award nominations for her portrayal as Queen Victoria in Young Victoria. In 2018, she was cast as the title character in Mary Poppins Returns. I didn't even know that was a thing till just now. I actually loved Mary Poppins as a kid. That was one of my favorite ones. When I was young, though, I got that and The Sound of Music confused all the time for some reason. I don't know why. She has a stutter, or at least had one as a child, but strangely enough, the stutter would disappear when she was asked to act in a different voice. Reminds me of that old country western singer that had a severe stutter until he started singing. I forget who that was. Her breakout role or breakout movie was with Anne Hathaway in the movie The Devil Wears Prada. That was a pretty good movie. She's married to John Krasinski, who most people know him from The Office, but he's played great parts like in Jack Ryan, Big Miracle, Leatherheads back in like 2008 with George Clooney. Pretty good actor. But yeah, it's his wife's birthday. Emily Blunt died on February 23rd, 2020, Ahmad Arbery. He was a black American man who was tragically shot while jogging through a Georgia neighborhood by a father and son. He graduated from Brunswick High School in 2012. He played football for his high school team, where he was known for his agility. Anyway, if you don't know about this one, the guy's just got convicted of both a state crime and a federal hate crime. What it was he was jogging through a neighborhood and they had some construction going on in some new houses. Nobody was there and he was just kind of poking around, taking a look at the houses, maybe gonna buy one. It's in construction, no one's there. It's not like he was stealing anything. For some reason, this father and son from the neighborhood decided to chase him down in their car and confront him with guns. He tried to get away from them. They kept following him. They blocked him in. Eventually they got out and they pointed guns at him. There was a scuffle and he got shot twice. It's a sad, sad story. All right, that's today's video. If you want to help out this channel, at the end, there's always other videos you can click on and watch from this channel. If you do that, it really helps out the channel these days. YouTube wants to see people watching more than one of your videos in a session. That's why they're at the end. It'd be great if you did. If you got time, everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.